Hey guys, welcome back for a few more stories from Sideways, Stories from Wayside School. We are getting so close to finishing this book. This is, like I said, one of my absolute favorite stories to read over and over and over again. Today we've got another couple great characters for you to hear about, and we're going to kick it off with the three Erics. In Miss Jewel's class, there were three children named Eric. Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Ovens. They were known throughout the school for being fat. Eric Fry sat at this end of the room, Eric Bacon sat in the middle of the room, and Eric Ovens sat at the other end of the room. There was a joke around Wayside School that if all three Erics were ever in the same end of the room at the same time, the whole school would tip over. Eric Bacon hated jokes like that. That's not surprising. After all, he wasn't even fat. In fact, he was the skinniest kid in Miss Jewel's class, but nobody ever seemed to notice. The other two Erics were fat, so everyone just thought all Erics were fat. But I'm not fat, Eric Bacon insisted. Well, what's your name? Asked Jason. Eric, said Eric Bacon. Well, then you're fat, Jason concluded. And pretty soon, skinny little Eric Bacon, the skinniest kid in Miss Jewel's class, had the nickname of Fatso. Eric Fry really was fat. He was also the best athlete in Miss Jewel's class. His body was solid muscle, however, nobody ever noticed. The other two Erics weren't very good at sports. Eric Oven was clumsy. Eric Fatso Bacon was a good athlete for his size, but he was just so skinny. He didn't have much power. So naturally, everybody assumed that Eric Fry was also clumsy and weak. After all, his name was Eric. Whenever the other kids chose teams, Eric Fry was the last one picked. They never noticed his home runs or his fabulous catches that he made. Like all great athletes, he made the impossible look easy. Of course, the other kids did notice the one time he dropped the ball. Eric Fry was playing right field. Terrence belted it a deep fly to left. Eric Fry raced all the way across the field after the ball and at the last second dived at it. He caught it midair in his fingertips, but he hit the ground and the ball squirted loose. Well, what do you expect from old Butterfingers, said Stephen. And since that time, Eric Fry had the nickname of Butterfingers. Eric Ovens was the nicest person in Mrs. Jewel's class. He treated everybody equally and always had a kind word to say. But because his name was Eric, everyone thought he was mean. Fatso was mean because everybody called him Fatso. Butterfingers was mean because he always had to play right field. So naturally, everyone assumed that Eric Ovens was also mean. They called him Crabapple. Good morning, Allison, said Eric Ovens. How are you? Lay off, Crabapple, will ya? Answered Allison. If you don't have anything nice to say, then, well, don't say it at all. All of the three Erics had nicknames. It was better that way. Otherwise, when someone said, "Hey, Eric," no one would know whom he was talking to. One time, all the Erics would answer, and the next time, none would answer. And when someone said, "Hey, Crabapple," then Eric Ovens knew they were talking to him. And if someone said, "Hey, Butterfingers," Eric Fry knew it was meant for him. And when somebody said, "Hey, Fatso," Eric Bacon knew he was being called. Allison. Allison had pretty blonde hair and always wore a sky blue windbreaker. Her windbreaker was the same color as her eyes. She was best friends with Rondi. Rondi had blonde hair too. She was missing her two front teeth. Allison had all her teeth. Allison used to say that she knocked Rondi's teeth out. Allison was very pretty, so all the boys in Miss Jewel's classes teased her, especially Jason. But Allison said, "Leave me alone or I'll knock your teeth out like I did Rondi's." The boys didn't bother her after that. One day, Allison brought a tangerine for lunch. She took the peel off in one piece. Miss Mush, the lunch teacher, walked up to her. "Allison, may I have your tangerine?" she asked. Miss Mush always gave food to the children, so Allison was happy to give her her tangerine. Miss Mush shoved it in her mouth and swallowed it in less than 4 seconds. Allison left the lunchroom and walked down to the library. The lunchroom was on the 15th story. The library was on the 7th. Allison already had her book. She just went to the library because it was nice and quiet in there. The librarian walked up to Allison. "What are you reading?" she asked. Allison told her the name of the book. "Well, that sounds like a good book," said the librarian. "I've never read that one. May I borrow it?" The librarian always lent books to the children. Allison was glad to be able to return the favor. She gave the librarian the book and she walked down the stairs outside to the playground. All of Allison's friends were playing freeze tag. Allison didn't feel like playing. She reached into her pocket of her sky blue windbreaker and took out a tennis ball. She bounced it a couple times on the ground. Lewis came up to her. "Hey, Allison," he said. "May I play with your tennis ball?" Lewis always gave balls to children. Allison happily gave her ball to Lewis. Lewis threw the ball all the way to the other side of the playground. Then he went off chasing after it. Allison didn't feel like doing anything. Jason ran up and tagged her. "You're frozen," he said. "Get out before I knock your teeth out," said Allison. Jason shrugged his shoulders and just left. Allison went back inside, up 30 flights of stairs to Miss Jewel's room. The lunch period wasn't over yet. But Allison didn't feel like doing anything else. She gave her food to her lunch teacher, her book to her librarian, and her ball to the yard teacher. She went outside her classroom. Miss Jewels was there. "Oh, Allison, I'm so glad you're here," said Miss Jewels. "I'm having trouble with this arithmetic problem. Maybe you can help me." "Sure," said Allison. Miss Jewels always helped the children with their problems. Allison was happy to help. "How do you spell chair?" asked Miss Jewels. "Chair," said Allison. "Oh, yes, that's right," said Miss Jewels. "I knew it wasn't Chare, but I just couldn't remember what it was." That's not an arithmetic problem, though," said Allison. "That's spelling." Yep, you're right again," said Miss Jewels. "I always get those two things mixed up." The bell rang. The lunch period was over. Allison could hear the other children running up the stairs. "Allison," said Miss Jewels, "you learned a very important secret today, and I don't want you to tell any of the other children, not even Rondi." "Well, what was that?" asked Allison. She didn't even know what she had learned, that it was a secret, and she loves secrets. "You learned that children really are smarter than their teachers," said Miss Jewels, "and that's no that's no secret," said Allison. "Everybody knows that." All right, guys. I will see you again for a couple more chapters. Happy listening, or thanks for listening. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.